Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Horror Podcast presents Sharing in Session, a weekly Yellowjackets breakdown. My name is Sean.
And I'm Missy.
And we're going to talk about Yellowjackets Season 3, Episode 3. This is full spoiler discussion, so if you have not watched this yet, do not listen to a word we say. Turn us off right now. Missy, what did you think about Them's the Breaks?
Um, I thought it was a very solid episode. We have some cool developments. I have issue with the dream sequence at the end, as I know
Oh,
you also do.
Oh, fucking waste. I felt like a quarter of the episode was just wasted. I was like, you fucking kidding me right now? I was not happy with that shit at all.
Yeah, I knew you wouldn't be. And as soon as we start getting that dream sequence and Van sits down in the rocking chair, I had Lost flashbacks. And again, I like Lost. I mean, I have issues, but I've rewatched it a couple times. But yeah, I did not like the dream sequences, and it felt like it was leaning into some of the stuff that Lost did that I didn't like. So hopefully we're not going to stick with that. But
Here's the thing, because Kirsten and I were talking about this today. The thing with Lost's issues are not entirely with its creators, and what I mean by that is it bridges the gap between two different kind of paradigms for broadcast television. The old paradigm was, oh, people like this, draw it out, draw it out. And you can see that in the first three seasons for sure.
mhm.
And then there was a writer's strike. I mean, the third season was largely terrible. It ends with the great, like, mind fuck of, like, we need to get back to the island. Like, holy shit, they got off. Spoilers, sorry, it's been 20 years, fuck off. And the writer's strike happens, and then it's like, you kidding me? I went through that whole fucking season, which was not great, get to this awesome ending, and then it might not come back. They make this deal. Okay, network says, what do you need to finish this? Okay, they come back with, we're going to do four more seasons. I think it was 16 episodes a season. And the moment in the fourth season, there's a moment where Jeff Fahey, is a helicopter pilot, brings in, I forget the one actor's name, he's also on Justified, and then the Miles character. And
Mhm.
there's this moment where you realize the show has changed because they land, they go to, I think it's Sawyer, and they're like, what are you here for? And they're like, Ben. And I'll never forget that episode the first time I watched it because I was like, holy shit, this show is 100% different. Because if it was the first three seasons, it would have taken 7 episodes to find out what they were fucking there for. But now it's like,
Right.
no, we have beats we have to fucking hit in order to get to where we're going. And
Mhm.
that changed TV, right? And then a couple years later, Breaking Bad, the final season. And I remember everywhere the billboards, the final season. And they started doing that with these shows. Like from the beginning, we're going to do this show. How many seasons is it?
Mhm.
Right? That was never a thing before. It was like, if it's popular, keep it going fucking forever. They even did that shit with
Right.
The Sopranos, where David Chase was like, it's going to be 4 seasons. It was so successful. HBO was like, can you milk it? And I love The Sopranos, but there's a 2 episode dream sequence in The
Oh,
Sopranos.
geez.
And it's just, it's gratuitous as fuck, right? So now we have, and then you have later, you have True Detective, where this is like, no, it's 8 episodes and it's a fucking 8 hour movie that we're just going to break into hour long. That further
Right.
changes things. So the reason I'm going through this long dissertation about this is because any show today, I feel like they don't suffer from that, like, oh, keep it going or whatever. So they got to know where they're going. So I think they know where they're going with Yellowjackets. I really believe that. And then we hit something like this, and I'm just like, this is just wasting everybody's fucking time.
Maybe.
Well, okay, so I'm watching this episode. I'm thinking, okay, well, we're on the third, so the first episodes are going to be big, and then maybe the last couple. But then I'm like, wait, no, that shouldn't be like that anymore. That's the old paradigm. Every episode, like, I don't want to wait till the end of season to know what the screaming in the trees is. I want to know next fucking episode, right? So I don't know. The dream sequences we've had in previous episodes really turned out to me next to nothing. You know, Lottie like freezing and like going into the mall and all that. Like, I don't know. What do you think? Am I wrong? Am I jumping to
Maybe
conclusions?
I feel like these dream sequences, although they did annoy me, um, there's a lot of imagery in them. I didn't get a chance to rewatch them today because I was at work, but I feel like there are probably things hidden in those dream sequences that will be relevant later because I've read multiple times and I mean, I don't know, I've seen stuff on Instagram and whatnot that the writers are planning Yellowjackets to be 5 seasons. So they
Hmm.
have to at least have a basic bare bones idea of where they're going. And
I
there's
think they know where
so
they're
much
going, but
and
are they
there's so much
drawing it out to hit 5 seasons?
and I don't know. There's so much symbolism in this show. I feel like that there's probably more to them than we're seeing right now. So I
Maybe.
mean,
Yeah. I mean, I give it the benefit of the doubt. I love the show.
yeah,
This
just
isn't me breaking up with the show. It's just,
right.
I just get very prickly about, a little bit of a dream sequence is fine. But when it's literally like, this was, I felt like really long, like really fucking long,
Well, it was, but I mean, it was also involving three different people.
which, I mean, yeah, so it had to be long, but like they wrote it that way. It didn't have to,
Right,
right? You know what I mean?
right,
So,
right.
like, but okay, so enough of my fucking complaining. Hopefully in an episode, I'll be like, I was totally wrong. I'll be happy to eat crow, no problem. I do it all the time. Crows are like bats, and a bat is just like a Cornish hen had a baby with a demon. So and they're juicy. I've heard they're juicy. Um, so let's go through it from the beginning. We start with Right Said Fred.
Right. And we're too
Um,
sexy for the cave.
yeah, yeah. And Maori's like really transparent plot to get to the mace, and Coach not realizing that, but I love the way he's just like, Mari, I'm gay, and even if I wasn't, I would rather take a spoon and put it all the way through my eye to the back of my skull before I'd ever touch you. Like, way to go, man. I
Right.
love him. He's my second
I do
favorite
too.
character.
Yeah, I root for Coach too. I don't know. I don't know what the odds are for a one-legged man out in the wilderness, but we'll see what happens. But
What did you think
oh,
about his? How is any of this fucking real speech? It gave me chills.
yeah, it's fantastic and heartbreaking. And it leads to something that Mari said that I feel like is important. Um, because then she tells him the story about her dying
4-year-old niece
yeah, niece.
or cousin,
And
cousin.
comes and says something to the effect of, I think maybe there are two versions of reality. Most of the time, the other one, the bad one, it's just hiding or waiting, but it's all real. I'm not sure exactly where they're going with it, but I feel like it's going to be important, even if we don't really know what it means now.
So I wrote that quote down too. I really like that whole scene,
Me too.
and how interesting to have Mari espouse some existential like treatise on reality. I was just like, really? Um, but I'm wondering if that is just a look over here while I do something over here. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
that seems like huge. However, we are getting, and we'll get into this, but we're getting into a place where they're going to have to make a decision
Right, what it
whether,
is.
well, no, or whether is this all rooted in reality or is there extra sensory shit going on? They're moving in that direction with not necessarily like that scene, and her comment doesn't demand a retort or a response, but it sets something up, and then we have other characters that are kind of one foot in both worlds, right? So
Hmm.
we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I really liked that. And I was also very impressed that when Mari got back to camp, she originally seemed like she actually wasn't going to rat out the fact that Coach
Hmm.
was there. That impressed me because, I mean, she just seems like a vapid cunt almost all the time.
Right. Right. I don't think she was going to either, but then she tripped herself up because
Yep.
she said she was in this deep pit and, okay, well, how'd you get out?
Yeah.
It was nice to see Mari have a little bit more depth of character than just I'm a heinous bitch.
Yes, I agree.
I had another thought today. Um, we, I mean, I don't know, but we know Hilary Swank is coming,
Yeah.
that she's part of the cast. Um, I was originally thinking that she was Melissa, but I mean, it's possible she could be Mari too.
That's interesting.
I mean, we don't know. We haven't seen. We don't. We don't know who survives. I mean, because they leave that open so they can insert, bring up bring up more characters as wanted or as needed. And when I checked before on IMDb, like a week ago, I mean, it says Hilary Swank is coming, but it does not give you the character name.
I had to I'm looking at her right now on IMDb because it's like she's vague in my mind. Like I kind of know what she looks like, but not really. Um, but looking at her, I would find it a very weird stretch to be Mari. However, I feel like there is
Okay.
a surprise that is going to be coming. Like
Hmm.
you're not wrong to think that way.
Both are thin, brown-haired girls, so I mean, they can.
Yeah, Swank is pretty Caucasian. And Mari is not Caucasian. I don't know what ethnicity she is, but she's not Caucasian.
Okay. Okay.
I started thinking, what if the opening of the pilot, yeah, what if that's not 1996? What if that's present day?
Oh shit. But why would that be?
Well, I'll get to how that came into my. I'm probably
It's
wrong,
an
most
interesting
likely.
thought. I want to know where you're going with it.
I'll tell you how I got there. I'm most likely wrong. And to the listeners, since the last episode, I realized something that was staring me in the face, and I think you already knew, but we just hadn't talked about it. And that's the pit that the pit girl falls in the pilot, and
Hmm.
opening the pilot is definitely the pit that Coach
Yes,
finds the the uh,
absolutely.
the KUH in. There's no doubt about it. It's like literally, you look at it, it's like the same pit. I mean, either
Hmm.
that or they dug the identical pit, which I doubt.
Although in the pilot there are spikes in the pit, so
Yeah, but that would
they.
be easy to add, right? I mean, the
Right.
pit itself would not be. I mean, not that they couldn't do it. They've built fucking teepees, but
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure that it's. Although then that would make you think, well, wouldn't Mari know where that was? But not really. It's the forest, right? So it's like if you're running scared, you wouldn't necessarily know where you
You
were.
could, right.
I I I loved the mace. The mace scene was. It was. I just fucking loved it. So I can't believe you maced me. Me. I
He
just thought
flat
that.
out called her a fucking idiot.
Oh,
Like what?
I just
What did you think was gonna happen?
I love that.
Oh, yeah, that was funny. He's such an idiot.
Ugh.
Oh,
So
oh, Mari.
moving into the next scene, then we get Van and Ty, and here's the thing. Here's another thing that was so obvious about the last episode I did not catch. We had said Van didn't really seem like she went to the urgent care, right? Because she kind of downplayed it or whatever. But of
Hmm.
course she went to the urgent care because how else were the writers going to get to
This.
the doctor saying your cancer is in remission, right? So it makes like it's really a nice, elegant bit of writing. Like
Hmm.
she steps on the glass, hurts herself, goes to urgent care, boom, boom, boom. Perfect,
Right.
right?
They
Because
do
she would
blood
not
work.
have gone in for a
Right.
checkup.
She wouldn't. So this is the only way they had to have something happen that would force her to see a doctor.
Yes.
So yeah, that was well played. definitely well played. And well, we don't get Van and Ty together till later though, because if we're going through the episode in order, it starts out. I mean, we get Van at the doctor, but then we
Oh, good point.
she
Good
doesn't
point.
talk to Ty till later. Um, but yes, I thought that was a nice bit of writing too that got us where we needed to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're right, she's about as stubborn as they come. She would not have gone to a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. And it would have been really bad if it was like, hey, Nat's dead. Go to the doctor and check out. You know, I mean, it just would have been ridiculous. It was perfectly played.
Yeah, agreed. Then we go to what will lead us to one of my favorite parts of the episode. I love this whole thing going on with Lottie and Callie. And
It's
I mean, and
very interesting.
both actresses are outstanding. I love everything going on with them. And there's the one scene where Callie and Lottie, she goes out with her. They steal a $1,500 dress. Um, and then I forget exactly how Lottie asks her, but she asks Callie to tell her
Who
who
she
she
is.
is, but only if she chooses to answer because she has the capacity to do so. It, and then later on she gives her the necklace. It's a very interesting relationship. And the first time Lottie ever saw Callie, she said, "Is that your daughter? She's so powerful."
She seemed very well, and like I think one of us pointed out in a previous episode, she was very interested in Shauna's baby that didn't make it, and she's
Mm-hmm.
very interested in the one that did. And now, do you
Oh,
take
maybe
her intentions towards? Do you think there's possibly anything nefarious about her intentions towards Kelly?
I don't think nefarious. I She doesn't look at Callie like she's like I don't think she's looking at her as like a sacrifice. She's looking at her as like a sister.
Okay.
Like that's how I'm taking it. As I mean, obviously they're both very drawn to each other, but I think Lottie is looking at her as like the next antler queen.
Oh,
Ish. Like something she she's captivated with her, and I'm not sure why. Probably like you said that it's because she's the one that lived, and maybe that's why she thinks she's so special.
when and she's obviously very like she holds Shauna in some kind of a place of esteem or power or something, and
And I
we
think that's what she's seeing with Callie too. Like she's looking at her as Im- important in the like the grand wilderness scheme of things. I don't know.
yeah, okay, okay.
I'm not wording this right, but
No, no, I'm picking up what you're putting down 100%. I think you're right. That's interesting. And well, and she says
because
to Shauna
even
with the necklace, right? Like,
mhm,
you know, which Shauna freaks the fuck out because the necklace meant sacrifice, but Lottie says it never meant what you thought that it meant.
right, it never meant what you thought that it meant.
And that goes beyond the necklace. That goes into the entire. This goes in, and I think also what we're seeing as the scenarios in the past kind of unfold in this season, where she's trying to get people to talk to it, right, and whatnot. Um, she's looking at it on a larger scale, and I think everybody else is looking at it as like a very okay. What does this do for me now? And I think Lottie's looking at a much bigger picture.
I agree with that. But I just had a thought, like something just clicked, and I don't know if I'm right on or not. But there is a point. We'll get there with Ty and Van, but this is related. Ty will say to Van later on, that was the sacrifice and this is the gift. So what if Lottie is looking at Callie as the gift? The first baby was the sacrifice. This is the one that
Oh,
lived.
that's interesting.
It never meant what you thought it meant.
Well, and then like really running concurrent with this storyline in the present is the storyline with Van and Ty, where we'll go through the whole thing, but I'm really wondering like when they see the coyote and it's like, what do you want? We know what it wants, right? And then they're talking about obviously like, oh, the waiter and the cancer, right? So it's like they're
Mm-hmm.
looking at it as an equation. We get a sacrifice, Nat, the waiter, your cancer goes into remission. It wants more. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering, like, Lottie is looking at this as like kind of maybe cosmic hippy dippy,
Mm-hmm.
empowering, whatever. And I think maybe Van and Ty, I'm curious, like, are they going to kill? Are they like, is this the kind of thing where maybe they might get into a scenario where it's like we have to keep giving it what it wants?
I don't know.
But you definitely called. I didn't pick it up at all last episode, but you called the thing with the waiter like, oh, well, what, I mean, was that something else controlling, like,
Mm-hmm.
pulling the car? Oh, so the bus didn't hit you, but we get you anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how, whether or not that's accurate, that's how they're fucking reading it. They're looking at that like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's a reciprocal relationship to
Right.
where we are.
Right. That was the sacrifice and this is the gift.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if Lottie is looking at Callie the same way, and that's why she think if she thinks she's the gift, then what does that do for their, you know, wilderness cult or whatever?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
Shauna freaked the fuck out, and rightfully so.
yeah, rightfully so. I mean, that
Yeah.
like
She even asked her, "Where? How did you even get that?"
if she like even if her intentions are not nefarious, I feel like she should have brought that up to Shauna before doing it because it reads as manipulative. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it's not a good look at all.
But her and Callie are already. I mean, she lied to Shauna. They met up.
Yeah.
She encouraged Callie to steal a $1,500 dress.
Well, really, Lottie stole it. I'm very curious about where that relationship is going. There's not a lot of Misty in this episode. Like it's fine. Like she does the whole Shauna thing. We have to sit through the fucking Limp Biscuit. With if Jeff was in the car banging out to it, I would have been annoyed, but I would have understood. No place for it here. Um,
Right. Yeah. It if it's not a scene with Jeff and or Randy, there is no need for Limp
no, I
Bizkit.
mean I don't want to hear a period, but I'll at least understand, right? Although they countered it by, I feel like the score in this episode reached new heights. I thought it was fucking amazing because there was some new kind of music cues introduced that I just thought were awesome. And it ends with The Cold by The Cure from Pornography, which is like my favorite Cure album. And
Hmm.
while not really era appropriate per se, um, just, oh man, when that kicked in, I was like, holy fuck, that's amazing. But anyway, I'm getting ahead. I don't know. Anything to say about the stuff with Misty? I just felt it was kind of like a placeholder for her character, which is
Just
fine.
just it's a whole scene where her and Shauna are driving in the van and the brakes go out
Hmm.
and Shauna accuses Misty of it. I mean, and it's not Misty. I'm assuming it's whoever left the wilderness phone. Probably, if the new character coming is Melissa, then
Yeah,
my bet's on her.
yeah. Although that's a weird. Well, so we have to see where their relationship in the past goes. Is
We're
it?
right,
It's. It reminds me a lot of how they introduced Van, Lauren Ambrose as Van, because although they announced Lauren Ambrose as Van, right, and then I think the second season goes like 2 or 3 episodes before she's introduced,
right.
and so this is now similar.
but we don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah, we don't know who it's going to be. They did not announce Hillary Swank as a. They just said she'll be in it, but they didn't say who she was. So that is,
Right.
you're right. Like I said, I think you're right to suspect some kind of a surprise. I just don't know what it's going to be.
Right. I still lean toward her being Melissa, but because I'm still pretty convinced that Mari is going to end up being the pit girl. But
Hmm.
now I'm curious, you said we'd come back to it, um, where you were going initially about the two realities, and you said you had a
Well,
reason for that train of thought. Like,
oh no, the train of thought that I was talking about the if it was if the pit scene in the pilot was not 1996, if it was present, and that was
right.
simply the idea
Oh,
that
right, right.
the necklace has resurfaced, and there appears to be. We've already had one minor wilderness reunion hunt, right? At the end of season 2 at Lottie's compound.
Right.
We don't know where we're going, and it's very possible that they could end up back out there. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm probably reaching, and even I'm saying this. I rewatched the beginning of the pilot last week, but I already don't remember if like is there like a title card that says like 1996 before that happens? I don't think so, but I
No,
don't know for
no,
sure.
no, no. It
Is
just
there any
opens.
distinguishing features of the people that are skinning the meat and all that? Like they're in furs,
No,
but
just the masks. We've
okay,
never been able to figure out because I was obsessed with those masks
okay,
and did a bunch of. I know we talked about this when we were doing the this weekly for season 2. So like I researched the masks and
that's right.
had guesses to who I thought they were, but they were never. We don't. The only one we know is Misty because they show her
Right.
in the um in the original episode. They show her lift her fuzzy
And
owl
it's
looking
young
mask.
Misty, but it is possible that with editing they could be combining two different eras. I think I'm reaching, but it was just something that occurred to me. Like we don't know for sure.
Right, right. But no, we don't know who what animal masks go with which people.
Okay.
We just had guesses based on clothing and things, but they also intentionally will share clothing throughout the group.
Yes, exactly. Which I mean, and you know, like the necklace is the big pass around. Now we're seeing that in
Right.
the present. So that was the necklace was being on being on Callie was really the big like, oh God, what if this is like, what if it happens again? Like, what if they go back there?
Well,
Because we
and
still
they're
don't
all
know if there's a reason for them to go back there. It's possible. We don't know if there were other people or whatever. So it is
mhm.
possible they could.
Right. It is possible, especially with them all going more and more wild.
Yeah.
Um, because even when we get the scene where Ty does tell Van about the waiter, and Van kind of backs off and freaks out, that's when Ty starts talking about, the waiter was the sacrifice, your new prognosis is the gift, and she wants her to give in, and then she starts she lights a candle and starts chanting, "We hear the wilderness, and it hears us."
So here's my question to you about that. Is that other Ty?
Maybe
Because I don't know. Like it didn't even dawn on me the first time I watched it, but the second time I watched it, I was like, is her demeanor slightly different? Is this possibly other Ty?
it might be other Ty. I mean, I had that thought too. Usually Van can, I mean, at least in the past, Van's been able to tell, but when it's other Ty is more aggressive and doesn't dance around shit. She's direct.
Yeah.
Whereas actual, regular Ty is a politician. Usually when she's this fucking aggressive, it's the other one, but who knows? I mean, she may just be fired up and she just found
Yeah.
out that Van's cancer has stopped spreading and immediately credits it to it,
Hmm.
and then, we get the ad where she sees the one-eyed or the no-eyed man, and then they go looking for it. They go to that restaurant.
So that's the thing about the two realities, like where we've got like they are slipping into this other
Mm-hmm.
reality. So I feel like what Mari said, I don't know if it's going to be like the paradigm for the show where it's like, oh, there are two realities and this and that, but I think it's definitely outlining the fact that it's what you believe, right? And they
Right.
are definitely going to the side where like they
Mm-hmm.
fucking believe.
And I agree with you. Like, I think your call about the Ergrigor was like that was right. I was thinking in a very similar direction. I didn't remember the word, but
Hmm. Oh, like it's something they created, or at
it's
least
something they created.
their intention brought to them. It might have been created by
Right.
somebody else previously, whoever left the symbols,
Hmm.
but it's definitely theirs now.
And I think that's why they're here. That's why multiple people are hearing the growling that we're hearing.
Hmm.
They're all connected to each other.
Yeah.
And whether it is just a hive mind shared conscious thing or something, some kind of supernatural entity or whatever, they're all tapped into it, and that's why they hear it. And that's also why when we get this ad and Ty sees the no-eyed man, she even asks Van, did you see it too?
Right.
And I was expecting that she didn't. She said she did.
She did, because so that's
She
where it
did,
comes from.
but they're tapped into each other.
Yeah, but I think that I think that's a legitimate, like she somehow, so I was worried when that was a weird, because first of all I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm gonna say this, and I'm immediately gonna counter myself, devil's advocate style. But like, you look at that ad, and you're like, who the fuck would put that as their mascot? That creepy ass bullshit as their mascot on a fucking homemade ice cream parlor. However, I just watched a video about Ronald McDonald and how creepy as fuck he is. So I mean, like, it's not, people made choices. In the past with advertising and different things, and then you look at it now and you're like, how did you not see that that was like not appropriate or totally fucked up, right?
Well, but I
It just
don't
happens.
I don't think he was the mascot or anything. They
He's on the
I don't think
sign.
he is.
He's on the sign. Yeah. I mean, it's harder to tell, but it's him. It's like a lanky guy in a black suit. Like when they show the sign, it's like he's there.
Oh, okay. See, I thought that it was like they saw it because they're both, you know, um,
Tapped in.
tapped in, right? But I didn't think it was really there.
Well, let me take that back. I don't know if it's on the physical sign when they go to the restaurant. I mean, it's on like the commercial does its little, with him and his eyes come out or whatever when he tastes the
Uh-huh.
ice cream. But when the screen becomes their like, the end
Logo.
screen of the commercials, like Ozzy's homemade ice cream parlor, or whatever. He's part of the
Okay.
signage on the ad, so it is
Okay.
possible that he's not really
I didn't
there.
catch that. Right, like I didn't think that he was really part of. They're seeing it because they're tapped in and they're having all
Right.
these visions and crazy shit.
I didn't think of it like that. That's possible because, well, and also like, is the coyote really like that? Was so fucking. I think it was really there. And I think they're just gonna read that, but
That was nicely done, though. I really liked
it
that scene
was, and it
with the
was so
coyote.
surreal because you're like, well,
Uh-huh.
it's surreal enough where you're like, it can't be real, but. If you've ever been in a situation where something like that happens, it's fucking surreal, right? So,
Right.
I mean, they nailed it.
And it's also, which is interesting, because usually when Ty has seen animals in the past, it's always been the wolf. This
Yes.
was very much coyote. He's the trickster.
Yeah, the trickster. So when they get there and they walk in, there's like a shot of like it looks at first like a desk or something, but I think it was actually like just the tables because it's all dilapidated. But I was so at first like, oh God, don't tell me like she was like abused here and this was maybe it's just because I just rewatched Martyrs, but I had this whole like scenario unfold for in a flash in my head. It was like, oh, and then this logo, this character imprinted on her or whatever. I I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the whole
Hmm.
point of this is whether they're seeing this stuff or not. I mean, I am curious to know legitimately, is that guy like associated with this fucking defunct ice cream parlor, or does she have some connection to that
Right.
parlor other than having remembering it or having been there? Um,
Right. Because I mean, why there?
why
Why,
there? Yeah, like why did that particular? But I. I'd almost be curious to go back and find that episode in the first season where she's by her grandmother when her grandmother starts freaking out because I'm curious if there's
hmm
like a TV playing in the room or something. I don't remember
I
one,
don't
but
remember. I just remember him being in the mirror.
I think her grandmother is seeing whatever she's seeing,
Right.
and Ty is seeing what she thinks. You know what I mean? Like she's like, oh my God, he's there, or whatever she says, the grandmother, and
You
Ty
don't think they're seeing,
projects.
you don't think they're seeing the same thing,
Not
her and the
necessarily.
grandmother.
I mean, it leads you to believe they are, but I don't think that's actually necessarily true. I think it could go either way. And in fact, I actually think it's more likely they're not seeing. It's just like Ty is maybe that image freaked her out as a kid. Grandma has this freak out, and she just, for whatever reason, that was readily at hand in her mind, and she assigned it. I mean, kids' minds do kind of work like that.
Hmm.
But I think the whole point of this is like they are go. I think the point of having Mari say that about the two realities and then showing this is that they are definitely stepping into a darker reality, like a
Hmm.
bad. And I'm very curious because Van also, and it's funny because in the past, in 1996, Ty is kind of the non-believer and Van
Hmm.
is the believer, right? And then Ty kind of comes around when doing the morning exercises of Lottie's, like helps her stop sleepwalking or whatever. But it's the opposite here. And if Van really gets going on this, Van scares me a little bit. Like Van has been either dead or close to dead. She's touched some dark shit, and I think we see in that first season, like she's capable of some shit. So
Hmm.
and also that goes with that thing where I was saying last week where I can't read her. There's like
Hmm.
something we're not seeing. She's like I wouldn't be surprised to find out like she's killed somebody or whatever. I mean, it doesn't really fit with the character, but she's got a darkness that's very nuanced and non-apparent. And
Hmm.
I think that could lead to some like her and I mean it's kind of that like hey, I got cancer. You're a failed senator who's divorced and can't see your kid, and now we have this. Like, let's go on a fucking killing spree or whatever.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. They get scary together. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a whole lot. That that whole storyline with them.
Yeah.
But they're definitely scary together. And maybe that's why they couldn't stay together.
Yeah. Good point.
Because I mean, they they always seemed when we get the 96 timeline, they were a really strong couple. And so why did they separate? They obviously still love each other.
Yeah.
So maybe the reason they weren't together was because when they're together, it unlocks this shit.
Well, and there is some reference about is it I think it's with them when they're connecting the dots with the waiter and the cancer where like it's happening again and like is there something like does Van say something like you know what that means or you know what happened last time or something like that like there's some intimation that we still haven't seen the full extent of where the
Hmm.
96 timeline goes as far as like
Right.
depravity
Yeah, something to that effect is definitely said. I don't remember exactly what it was, but yeah, it feels like we're going somewhere.
Yeah.
So like it feels like it's amping up this season. I mean, I still don't like the dream sequence thing, but other than that, it was a fucking great episode.
It was. It was a really good episode, and I just, it's like, okay, we had the dream sequence. I don't want to know. Like, I legitimately want an answer to some. Like, I don't want to wait until the end of the season for answers. I want them to start hitting beats and like really like laying down cards because that's the only way this is going to completely carry itself through. And what I mean by that is like I just saw something right before we started recording that like the third season premiere was like the highest streamed episode or something like that of the show's history. So like people are in.
Hmm.
Don't fuck around. And
Right.
again, I think they know where they're going, but it's like I don't want to wait till the end of the season for answers. I want developments that are going to be like holy fuck in
Hmm.
if not every episode. Like why not? Well, why can't like there's so much shit set up that it's like a gotta see. They should
Hmm.
be able to start fucking rolling stuff out and blowing people's minds like systematically episode by episode.
Right. I wanna start seeing some crazy fucking feral cannibal shit.
I want, and this episode had like a lot less of the '96 timeline, which is fine. That's totally fine. I mean, the arguably the stuff in the present, this episode was fantastic. So I
Hmm.
was completely fine with it.
Yeah.
Um, but I want, I don't know. I really want more. And I hope we're gonna get it because I just don't want like episodes that feel like okay we're gonna tread water for a couple episodes because I feel like there is this inherent thing with these kind of shows where people just understand like that's what we do, we tread water for a couple episodes and then boom. But I don't want that. Like this show
Right.
has set up a lot of promises and like don't sign checks your ass can't cash or however that fucking saying goes.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I I want more, and I I really don't want like a. We were talking about the possibility of like a Dharma initiative kind of thing. I don't want that.
No, I don't want that either.
I want feral cannibal bullshit and like weird occult stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously there's going to be other people that have been in the wilderness. So at some point, that has got to. I stand by my thing that I think we're going to get an episode because it fits into this kind of show too, where we might get an episode this season that is the guy, the hunter, the guy that died in the cabin, right? I mean, I know the cabin's long gone, but like clearly he was involved with whoever left the cache or what. So I mean
Hmm.
so there's him in a cabin, he's got supplies, there's a plane outside nearby, then you go a little further out and there's a fucking wooden boards over a giant pit that holding
Hmm.
um supplies. Like I want an episode, the whole episode just show me everything about that. I would be completely fine with like a 180 where we do that for an episode. I think that'd be great.
Well, and Javi had said that his friend told him not to come back and
Yeah.
not to say anything. So who
Well, although
who?
that could be like metaphysical too, like he could have been tapped into whatever. But yeah, I don't.
Mm, yeah,
We need
maybe.
to start doling this stuff out because this doesn't have to be minimized. Like I feel like a lot of shows would like promise this big stuff, but keep it relatively sane. And I don't want that. I want this to go places I've never been before.
Hmm. Me too. But I mean, they've got to get us there.
They got to get us
So,
there, but I mean. I mean, if I'm walking up a very long staircase and you keep saying, yeah, it's coming, it's coming. I mean, after a while, I'm going to be like, you know what? Really? Is it really coming? So, but I mean, again,
Well,
I believe in them.
let's I believe in them too. Let's see how season 3 shakes out.
Yes.
Um,
So next week we
because
got four.
that's the mid season. This is they've got to get us to a point where if they are conjuring all this shit again, they probably will have to go back there eventually. So we have to see how deep the crazy goes, and
Yeah.
it's going to take a little time. And I feel like they're like we're only 3 episodes into season 3, and it feels like we've learned a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm not feeling I'm not feeling impatient over just 15 bad minutes.
I don't know. It just could have been spent better. But again, like I'll shut up and I'll shut up and we'll see what happens next week.
It was otherwise a pretty great episode.
Yeah, it was. So we get to see what that thing is in the titles. Remember, I was like, "What is that thing?" And it was exactly I think what you
Oh
said
yeah,
was
yeah.
her, but from way up high, right? Like floating in
Mm-hmm.
the water.
Floating in the water.
But that scene, the music. I don't know if you've noticed this. Shazam like does not work at all anymore. I've used Shazam multiple times in like big movies and stuff, and like Shazam stuff, and it can't tell me what anything is anymore. Um, but the music cue that happened, I knew it was not score, it was something pre-existing. When she's floating in the water, it sounds like a giallo. It sounds like something Ennio Morricone did for like Black Belly the Tarantula or something. I was like, what the fuck is this? Couldn't
Okay.
tell me. I looked it up. I saw somebody on Reddit, I think, said it's a band called The Breaks, and it's a song called Them's the Breaks, which would be the name of the
Which
episode.
okay.
But the funny thing is, the breaks are on Apple Music. I couldn't find that song. And if you go to YouTube and put in the breaks, them's the breaks, or any variation of that with like video, song, whatever, all you get are people talking about this episode of this show. So I haven't
Oh,
been able to
okay.
listen to it, but I really liked that piece of music, and I thought it was that scene, like her in that white dress, it was very giallo in a way. In a way, like there was just that kind of
Okay.
surreal. I don't know. It was very interesting.
I can see that. I honestly like the not the score, but like their musical choices. I always notice those because they bring me back to high school,
Hmm.
but I don't recall ever really being aware of. I mean, I was aware there was music, but like it never
It's
the
not super
score.
ostentatious. But if you like, there's some really cool shit going on score wise, and I can't find a composer on IMDb. That's the weirdest thing. I was like looking, I'm like, wait a minute, who composes for this? Um,
Okay,
but this episode specifically, I don't remember the specifics, like where it was, but there was like a couple motifs that I had heard before, and then there was some stuff I'm like, oh, that's fucking new, and it was really good. I was really, I don't know, I was digging it quite a bit.
okay. Yeah, I noticed some of it on my second watch because you had mentioned something to me about the score, but I feel like I never was really aware of it until you called it out. But that happens to me with movies a lot too.
Well, it's very understated. There's a motif that recurs. I know I haven't heard it in like I definitely didn't hear it in this episode, but there's a motif that occurs repeatedly in the first two seasons that reminds me of something on. It's got to be modeled after something on Radiohead's Kid A near the end of the album. I can't think of what song because the last couple songs all go together in this really like hallucinatory way, but
Okay,
it sounds like stars shooting across the sky in the distance. Like that's the
okay,
only way I can describe it. I'll see if I can figure out what song it is.
okay.
Um,
Yeah, I I I don't really know any Radiohead except for some, if you've played something for me.
I think it's motion picture soundtrack. I think is the song I'm thinking of. Um, but everything is very, very understated for the most part, and even like the stuff to even when it gets a little bit more toothy, it reminds me
Mm-hmm.
kind of. There's this in this episode, and I think it was in the last episode. There's this like synth motif, and it's really kind of gnarly sounding. It reminds me a little bit of this guy Ben Frost that did the music for. I mean, he's done the music for a lot of stuff, and he's got a pretty extensive portfolio of albums that are all pretty awesome from what I know of them. I don't know them all, but he did the
Okay.
music for a show called Dark that I'm a huge fan of that was on Netflix. And
Mm-hmm.
there's just this very like visceral bass sound. It's like a synth bass. It's got
Okay.
teeth.
Well, I
But
just
yeah,
like how they blend wilderness sounds with the score.
yeah.
I was noticing that today when on my rewatch that
So
the
there
music
is,
didn't super stand out for me, but the way the nature sounds were blended in with it did.
see now if you look Yellowjackets up on Apple Music, there's soundtracks for the seasons, but those are the songs featured, right? So let's see, is there a score? Yeah, there is, and it's Craig Weidron and Anna Waronker who do the theme music, or I mean, the sorry, the theme song, the No
The
Return.
no return song. Okay.
Yeah, original score from the Showtime series. This is from 2022. Interesting. I'll have to listen to this week. I haven't listened to this yet, but yeah, I mean, all the music. I mean, aside from when they bring in fucking Limp Bizkit or Papa Roach. But again,
Mhm.
like I
Papa
get it
Roach,
to
though, I stand by that was like that was the perfect song for that scene for that character.
it was it 100% was.
And
Ugh.
and most of the time I think their musical choices with that stuff are spot on, but I the limp the Limp Bizkit song should have been that was not the right song for that scene.
No, it should have been something else.
Unless it was a Jeff scene, there was no reason we ever need to hear I did it all for the fucking nookie, which
Yeah,
has been
agreed.
stuck in my head for now the last day and a half.
I still have that fucking Candlebox song from I don't know if it was the first or second, and I mean I'd rather that I guess than Limp Bizkit, but I mean
I
it's like
I
shades of gray.
hate that fucking nookie song, but
Yeah, I do too.
I hated it when it was popular when we were in high school or our 20s or whenever the fuck it came out, but I hated it then and I still hate it now.
Yeah, agreed. Oh, so maybe we can get through. I don't know. I'll reserve all pontification about episode 4 and I just can't wait for next fucking week. God damn it.
Yeah.
Okay, so until episode 4 for sharing in session, I'm Sean.
And I'm Missy.
Hapless teenagers beset by demons in the woods. A strange new drug that turns art into murder. A can't beat a deal on a new house with a horrifying past. A video game that might usher in the apocalypse. From the demented mind of Sean C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires, Shadow Play, and Murder Virus, comes Volume 4, collecting Baker's no sleep work along with several never-before-published short stories. This 99-cent volume also includes the opening chapter of the author's forthcoming teenage giallo novel, Black Gloves and Broken Hearts.